Why is receiving an invitation so nice? Aren't invitations nice? That's kind of nice, right? Although there are those seasons of life, kind of like Kelsey and I experienced, and maybe others of you have experienced, it was just post-college, and it was that summer, or like 2 summers in a row, where like everyone was getting married, and you went to like 47 weddings, and that's just like, all right, enough invitations. I know you want me there, but I don't want to. So, anyways, but receiving an invitation, it is so nice. I think it's nice because of the desire that's out in the open now, that desire to share something special. It's a person saying to another, hey, I would like to share something with you. Please, would you come? This experience is important to me, and it's important that you are there with me. Would you come and see? It's nice to be invited because it's nice to know that your presence is desired. So we're going to talk about how this concept of invitation is expressed, as I said, particularly by Jesus Christ. We're going to do this because Jesus is an invitational person. He's always doing it. Jesus is inviting people to all sorts of things in the gospel letters of the New Testament. And even more, as we'll find out, Jesus encourages his invitees to be inviters as well. Jesus is all about sharing something special with all sorts of people, and he encourages those people to invite others to share in that same thing. Now, what does Jesus want to share? What are people exactly being invited to? Well, himself. Jesus is inviting others to share in himself. The Gospel of John expresses why it's so remarkable that Jesus is invitational, that Jesus invites people to know him. So chapter 1 of John opens with this profound description, a theology of who and what Jesus is. Verses 1 through 18 express the nature of Jesus Christ. He's the Word made flesh. He is the Son of the Father. He is grace and truth. He is the one through whom the world was created. Verse 18 ends by declaring Jesus as the only one who has made God known. This is who Jesus is. And he invites us to share in this. So our verses from the second half of John 1, they are the testimony of how the first disciples were invited by Jesus to know him. So we're just going to quick break them down a little bit. Beginning in verse 19, there is this actual 4-day sequence taking place. On day 1, John the Baptist now testifies to the Jewish leadership about who he is and who he is not. The Jewish leadership are wondering about John the Baptist. He defines himself as a voice crying out about the one who will come. So John the Baptist clarifies who he is in day 1. Day 2 is the appearance of Jesus before John the Baptist. This is presumably the day Jesus is baptized in the Jordan and the Holy Spirit descends upon him. Day 2 in the Gospel of John is about emphasizing John the Baptist's words about who Jesus is. Day 3 is about the transfer of followers and disciples. John the Baptist testifies about Jesus' divine role, about the authority of Jesus over creation, and about the purpose of Jesus. And immediately, as we read, 2 disciples, Andrew, and the other one's actually unnamed, if you notice that. That's because it's probably John, the gospel writer. I'll just leave it at that. 2 disciples ask Jesus where he's going. He says, "Come and see." Andrew then tells his brother, Simon Peter, and he also joins. So that's the end of day 3 there. Day 4 has Jesus finding Philip and inviting him to come and see. Philip then finds Nathanael and says to him, "Come and see." And then day 4 ends with Jesus giving a profound theological truth to Nathanael, but really to all of us. So what are some of the key takeaways, some of the key movements in this passage that teach us about how Jesus invites us to know him? So let's explore. First, there is that transfer of discipleship. To accept Jesus' invitation, these disciples had to leave someone else. John the Baptist proclaimed to his own disciples and the others around him who and what Jesus is and means to the world. The people then had to take this knowledge and make it real to themselves. They had to act on it. Notice that there is no in-between state. No disciples of John the Baptist and disciples of Jesus. There's no one foot in and kind of one foot out, so to say. A true transfer of authority takes place and must take place in one's life. This requires the heart, the mind, working together to accept Jesus' invitation. Because to accept Jesus' invitation, as we read about here, one must leave behind your old master. You can fill in that word, master, old master, with really, when you boil it all down, yourself. Your own desires. Your own sinful desires. So there's that transfer of discipleship. Second, there's the time spent with Jesus. So the gospel writer, John, emphasizes the time Jesus spends with these new followers. Jesus basically says, "Come and hang out with me." And the followers do just that. They follow, they hang out. What we are to see from that is that Jesus invites us to something more than just knowing stuff about him. Those disciples of John the Baptist could have said, "Oh, cool, that's so great. Well, see you later, Jesus. Now that we know that, we're still going to stay here." No. Now that they know that, they went to go be in his presence, to spend time with him. Jesus invites us to something more than just knowing stuff about him. He invites us to be with him. And remember how the gospel writer John described who and what Jesus is at the beginning of chapter 1. Remember that this is the Lord. This is the Creator. This is the Son of the Father, the one who is grace and truth. This is who invites us to be with him. We're to be stunned at this rather outrageous invitation, this outrageous reality that the Lord invites us to be with him. In this ancient world, the gods didn't do this. The gods didn't want to hang out with us. The God of Israel would not desire surely to hang out with us. We're just regular people, mortal, imperfect. This is outrageous, this invitation. And then just consider what the followers did with Jesus, right? If you think someone with such a high and lofty place invites you, you kind of like being before, say, the King of England, you're all proper and watching your manners and you're all dressed up nice and you're quiet and you only speak if spoken to and you got to be all formal and stuff. What did the followers of Jesus do? They ate food and hung out. They listened. They talked. These disciples probably asked questions, but the emphasis given is on them just spending time and therefore listening to Jesus. It's rather informal. So, notice that knowing facts about Jesus is not answering his invitation and following him. It is in the act of submitting yourself to time spent with, before Jesus, that the invitation is truly experienced and affirmed. So the natural question to ask yourself right now is if you do just that. Do you go beyond just knowing and studying Jesus? Do you enter that space of dwelling with him in prayer? Do you submit your heart, your mind, your person to the voice of Jesus Christ? And just try to listen. Third, we will note and have noted that there is this reflexive, this instinctual desire and need to invite others to Jesus. Andrew tells Simon Peter. Philip tells Nathanael, "Come and see, come and see, come and see." When the transfer of discipleship truly takes place, when time is spent listening to Jesus, our own spirits are stirred up to invite others to this wonderful, incredible thing. Also notice that Andrew did not come to Simon Peter with a master's in theological studies before that invitation from Andrew was given, right? Andrew didn't say to himself, I got to become this super expert in order to validate this invitation to this other person. No, he just said, I just experienced something. You have to come and see this experience as well. Same thing, Philip did not come to Nathanael with a doctorate in Christology before the invitation was given. Stirred spirits made alive by the Spirit of Jesus Christ go out and find others. Find others who are seeking. This is not to say that the study and knowledge of Jesus Christ isn't integral to discipleship. The gospel writer John, sorry, I keep clarifying gospel writer John, but clearly there's a lot of Johns in our text, so I'm just doing that for our sake. The gospel writer John would completely disagree with you if you tried to argue the point that I don't need to do a ton of study and knowledge about the depth of who Jesus is. John would argue the opposite. The point of discipleship is to learn and experience more and more of Jesus Christ. Faith is commitment and content. I'll say that again. Faith is commitment and content. However, to accept Christ's invitation to follow, to also extend that invitation to follow. There's no accomplishment you must make in order to be qualified to do that. That's important for us to see here. And then fourth, another takeaway, another movement in this gospel that the gospel writer John wants us to see regarding Jesus Christ's invitational approach and spirit is this: Jesus sees us first. Jesus sees us first. How do you know me? Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, I saw you while you were still under the fig tree, before Philip called you. A commentator on John puts it this way: God sees us before we see him. God will come and see before we ever think about discipleship. God makes his overture before we consider making our own. What blessed assurance there is in this truth. Once more, again, remember how the gospel writer John described the person of Jesus. It is this person, the Lord, Creator, who sees us first. Jesus sees us first. He enters our existence first. He comes and finds us first. What this means is that you matter. You matter to Jesus. You. So what have we learned about the nature of Jesus' invitational spirit? Quick review here. We've learned that he is the Lord. He calls us to leave all other masters. We've learned that he dwells with us. He calls us to a face-to-face relationship where we can listen to his voice. We have learned to share the invitation, Jesus calls us to go and act on our relationship with him by finding others to relate to him. We've learned that Jesus finds us first, and he therefore covers us in an assurance of faith. All these things are wrapped up in how Jesus extends his invitation to follow, to come and see.
Go in peace. We'll see you next week.